Well, I went to the Augusta airport to wait for them, and they said the plane had been delayed or the flight was changed or something, and I was supposed to come back in an hour or 2 hours or whatever it was. So I went home and came back again. Finally, this poor guy who kept running into the back room and coming out and running to the back, I hadn't really paid much attention, but I think I was the only one in the airport except the rental car people. Finally came out and told me the plane was down, and of course I didn't quite get the significance of that at first. What do you mean it's down? Where is it down? I went to use a phone, of course, to call somebody.
It was one of those hot, steamy nights in August where it was, very, very warm, and the humidity was really high. And I had gone upstairs to retire for the night, and the phone rang, and it was Jane Smith at the Augusta airport. And she said that the plane that Samantha and Arthur was on may have gone down, and she wanted me to take her over to the Auburn airport. On the way, I saw a state policeman who had stopped somebody, and I stopped to ask if he had heard whether a plane had gone down in the Lewiston area, and he hadn't heard.
The whole thing seemed like it took forever to get over there and to find out.
Jane and I came into to Auburn, and on the way to the airport, there's the Auburn police station, and I stopped to run in to see if there was any news of a plane crash there, and there hadn't been any specific news.
I was thinking about, thinking they might be in the hospital by then, and which hospital would they have been taken to?
We went by the Auburn fire station, and all the fire equipment had left the station, and that gave me a good inkling that something terrible had happened. And then we proceeded out to the Auburn airport, and there was police cars and the coroner there.
At the site, they told us they didn't think there were survivors, and then you could look down and see this plane in this ravine. It looked to me like it was mostly ashes at the time. It turns out I think that was the foam they had sprayed on it. But it, when I saw the plane, I thought it didn't look like anybody could have survived.
There wasn't much left of the plane at that, plane. It was just incredible. You would not recognize it as an airplane, just small bits and pieces scattered throughout the field and down into the ravine.
It's sort of all foggy in my brain, but I remember just walking and seeing this, and then, having to sort of argue with people to let us in there. And John basically, I think, told somebody who I was, and they didn't seem to have any great protocol, but they let me go in.
She wanted to see Arthur and Samantha at least one more time, even if it was a terrible thing to see.
And then we just left. Wasn't anything to be done at that point.
She showed very little emotion that you would expect after going through that kind of crisis.
Well, I was not very together. I wouldn't say I was very together, not at all. No, panicked, basically. So that was it, and that night was horrible, knowing that the next morning it would be hitting the news.
And so at 3 o'clock, I woke up, and I got up and started packing to go to Switzerland. And so I turned on the BBC, the radio, while I was packing. And I remember they said, and tonight, the young American, Samantha Smith, and I thought, oh, great. We're even getting good PR on the BBC. And then it said was killed in a plane crash, and I knew it was stunning, and I couldn't move for a few minutes.
I think about 3 in the morning, my phone rang, and my husband was crying, and he said he had just heard on the BBC that Samantha had been killed.
I will remember my clock, 7:15 in the morning. I remembered the call, and it was, I cannot think of a worse call.
It was around 4 o'clock in the morning, and the phone had rang, and and my mom started to cry.
I had a phone call about midnight, a little bit before midnight that night, from my news director.
It was a day just like today, pouring cats and dogs, and I opened up the Sunday paper and fell off my porch.
Well, it was a blow as if I lost a member of my family.
Honestly, I don't remember any emotion from that night except that my heart was just broken.
People talk today about when President Kennedy died and how did you hear in Pearl Harbor and whatever it was. And I had that same terrible clutch at the stomach, and I actually fell to my knees and wept.
I just couldn't believe that it had happened, because we had plans when she got back, you know, what we were going to do.
It took me maybe an hour or two to realize that that's it, that I've never seen her since that day that she left St. Petersburg, and I never will.
I would have dreams, like for the first year was really hard. I would have dreams that she'd call and say that she was stuck in a tree, which was really weird, and not to tell anybody because she didn't want anybody to know.